Alright, can you all see my screen? Assuming so. Yep.
Yes.
Rightio. So, first thing we would like to show this week is something that's recently become available, and I think is going to be very, very useful moving forward for our franchisees, which if we just go back to the main page on our Jira, this is what you look at. Hopefully you won't be looking at as many things to do as I am. But if we look up the top here, there's an option called Tools, and then Group Edit. Now in theory this should load in a moment. There we go. So this is an admin-only panel available to presumably the franchise owners. I'd have to clarify with Tim who is given this option, but I'm assuming it's probably the management tab or the management associated with each franchisee group, or perhaps only the owner. But you'll see your own individual franchise group here. Obviously, I've got access to a couple, so I'm seeing all those groups that I have access to. I just click. I decided to record this session, so I think it's making my computer lag a little bit. Banking details. We now have the facility to store banking details or within iGiro within the admin panel, and also obviously the account name and the like, which will give you the opportunity now to start using these throughout mail merge fields more simply. Specifically if you want to use it for generating tax invoices, or as an example within our preliminary services agreement document, where we previously had it as hard-coded text stating our banking details. They've now been changed over to mail merge fields, so that document, when it's generated, I know Richard sent an email about it the other week saying that we were looking at making it a little more intuitive and more customizable for our franchisees. This is the first evolution of that, which is obviously banking details now will be able to be automatically input into the document where they're actually entered into iGiro by the owner of the franchise through the Tools Group Edit option. You've also got the opportunity here to specifically adjust your company name to be whatever you trade as, which will be used for many mail merge fields moving forward. As you can see on mine, these are grayed out. I've got access to view these, but do not have the access privileges to adjust them for our group. When you look at your own, will see these as white fields, and they'll actually be text adjustable, so you'll be able to adjust them in whatever way you so choose. The other option is the Enable SMS. It was probably a year ago now we integrated the ability of iGiro to be able to contact clients and or suppliers and trades via a one-way SMS. It's a no reply address. But we found it to be a very, very effective way of communicating, well, firstly instructions to project managers where we were unable to raise them on the phone and where we knew that they weren't checking their emails frequently. But then second to that, we found it to be a very, very useful way of contacting a client and notifying them of key things, such as a standard template you could set up that was, hi, this is such and such from Integrity New Homes, just letting you know, or congratulations, your development approval has been issued by your consent authority. Your estimator will contact you in the coming days to make a copy available to you. So that's something that we've done internally. The fellow who looks after council applications and also receipting of those is tasked with going into the job and doing an SMS task to the client. Any SMSs that are sent through the applicable job will automatically appear in this list here as a contacted client, which will mean that your 2-week, or in our instance, the 2-week communication guarantee has been adhered to by nothing more than a simple one-way text. It's also useful where you don't really have anything important to talk to the client about, but you're being triggered to maintain that communication guarantee, or you just want to let the client know that you are working on their job but don't have any definitive answer for them at this time on specific things. So it might be as simple as, hey, we received your email, or yes, I received your voicemail. It's so early I don't want to call you back, blah, 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 something to those lines, or yes, we're working on your job, or just little things. We've received your request for a variation, just one-way instructional or notifications. So if we come here into the client contacts and we just, you'll see here we got the plus and the X. If I change this to a mobile field and put in a number, which I don't know which one to test. Richard, what's your mobile number?
0418
0418
254
254 502.
50.
I know the last bit. If I hit save and reload this, you'll see an email. There we go. SMS has just appeared. Now, I can click this SMS and I can write, hello Richard, you look very fine. Tells you how many characters, explains how many SMSs that will equate to, or what the chargeable cost will be associated with that. It'll appear at the bottom saying, I believe Integrity New Homes, Shane, no reply. Richard will be able to validate that for us when it comes through. The number of SMSs is specifically important because there is a fee associated with each SMS sent, 15 cents exactly at this point in time per SMS sent. And if you go over 160 characters, it will turn into, I think it's 160 characters, it turns into 2 SMSs. So then obviously you would be charged for 2 in that instance. So if I hit send now, Richard should receive a text any second now, and you'll see in the contacted client it's automatically come in saying SMS to this mobile number with exactly what's been sent. So previously,
I've received it.
And does it say Integrity New Homes as the recipient?
It just says Integrity, and then it goes, hello Richard, you look very fine. Shane, no reply.
There we go. See, he knows what's going on now. So that's very, very useful for one-way communication, specifically when you're reaching key events. Like I said, we're using it for when we're receiving DA consents. I'm also looking at expanding that to be when we receive their building contract too. Obviously, when we countersign the contract, we send it, we email it to the sales consultant. They print it, they bind it, they get it signed. They take it back off the client and post it, stick it in the mail and say, you'll get this back in time. There's a bit of a black hole there between when it suddenly turns up in the mail and when they post it. And especially if they send back a great list of a great number of owner requests for changes that may require completely redrafting or extensive time redrafting and or repricing, I think it might be appropriate perhaps when the contract comes in to have to task someone in the business with automatically putting in one of those contacted clients saying, hi, we're in receipt of your signed building contract, we're processing it, and we'll contact you should we have any other further questions or something to that effect, or your estimator will be in contact in due course. So it's a great way of firstly maintaining our advertised 2-week communication guarantee, and also, just getting across things that don't necessarily invite somebody to contact you back. That's the best thing. So that is now an option that can be enabled on your own databases. Historically, that was something you had to email Tim about when the feature first became available, and specifically request Tim to enable that in the back end. He's now made that a front-end feature that you yourself as a franchise owner can enable it at your own leisure. Like I said, we found it to be incredibly useful for keeping up our contacted client requirements. So I thought I'd just mention that while we were in here. There's obviously also the group contacts or assigning specific people who are associated with mail merge reports. So managing director, that's obviously probably preset for you when you get given your account to be whoever the owner is. I don't think that's actually used in any mail merge fields at this time, but may down the track. Franchise manager, once again, I'm not familiar with any documents at this point in time that rely on that information, but definitely accounts manager, administration, and client relations. Many of our standard all new home mail mergers rely on that specific criteria, those which are housed in this all new home franchises group. Many of those use that mail merge field rather than a specific individual. So by setting that in your own database, you can then start to take advantage of our already created and maintained documents, which are housed here. I think an example of one would probably be letter 5, I think, maybe has estimated details. There's a couple here which have client relations. I'll have to find them. But yes, there is definitely those which rely upon that information, and so it'd be useful to assign those to the individuals in your business that are undertaking those works. Now, in your instance, if you're a one-person business or a two-person business, it may actually be the same person for every single one of these. That's fine. It just means that when you're generating those reports, they're going to work automatically, and you're not going to have to type in a name manually. Moving on from that, and I guess kind of extrapolating on that would be, we're in the process of doing quite a bit of work in updating those standard merge docs, the ones in the all new home franchises group. We've got a new letterhead that's been released from our marketing team, which is a little bit more generic and user friendly for the whole group. Our previous preferred letterhead had the notations across the top about commercial, new home, renovations, land development, a lot of things that may not necessarily fit your individual business. So we've taken a more generic approach in that instance, and I believe that one may already be active in the prelim pricing document, which is the one that we showcased at the conference. I think preliminary estimate correspondence. So that one I think is now gone live. So I'm just going to choose a job which actually has information in it, otherwise it's not going to do anything. Any moment now, Bessie. Alright, so letter 001, preliminary estimate correspondence. If I generate that, it now has a new cover page, which is, in my opinion, very, very schmick compared to the old one. Looks a lot more like a formal tender presentation. It's now automatically, obviously, pulling in the recipient's details, prepared for the client, the site address, and the date. Date's very, very important. But then we've got this new letterhead you can see, which is a little more slimline, doesn't take up as much space, and is far more generic and should be suitable for everybody. Also, many of the details which are in this document are being pre-populated from iGyro versus being hard-coded into the imagery as it was once previously. This whole field at the bottom, Integrity New Homes, the ABN, the phone number, the builder's license, all of those are now active mail merge fields that are referring to your company group and to your builder's license field in business contacts, so that you as a franchisee can now use this letter without having to copy it to your own database and editing it, should you so choose to. Obviously, if things are named differently in your state or have different references, or if you don't undertake some of these things, then yes, you will need to make a copy of this and adjust as appropriate. But all these here will now be able to be, I guess, pre-filled in, and you as an independent will now be able to literally just use our documents without any adjustment, should you so choose. So it's pulling in the client names straight off the contract field. It's pulling in the design type chosen from the main page, pulling in the site address from the main page. It's pulling in the sales consultant. In our instance, it's a previous employee, which is why it's got that X there. And all these details down the bottom here in this footer are also being driven by fields elsewhere in iGyro. So, for instance, the builder's license, if I just load up business contacts, and as we can see here, builder's license number is exactly what we're seeing on screen. The ABN is exactly what we're seeing on screen. So it's pulling in the details, including the postal address, for the company that the individual is assigned to effectively. So in our instance, where we have operations in multiple locations, it can be set up in some documents, such as the preliminary agreement or preliminary services agreement document, to actually put the site address, to put the physical address of the individual generating that document, so it appears like a local presence. One example would be obviously this preliminary services agreement. If I generate this one, it will come in with 199 Rose Avenue, because that is listed in business contacts as being my physical address. So we've set this up obviously because we're operating in a couple of different markets. It's very, very important that we appear as a local in each of those markets versus being some big conglomerate based elsewhere. So that and I guess it also gives a reference for where the person met and where you should direct any further inquiries. But then it brings in obviously the PO box of the company itself and the ABN of the company with whom you're employed by. So if each of you guys were to now run this report, in theory, obviously I don't have another company to test it on, but in theory, all that document should pre-fill with your individual circumstances, as should the banking details once you set that up.
Did that other change get made here, that we changed some of the wording in this document?
We did. It was in relation to the date of the document. It was
when they had to pay by.
Yes, so it was this one here. The owner agrees to pay the builder the privilege within
7 calendar days
of this agreement, whereas previously it said within 7 calendar days of signing this agreement, which then obviously meant the document was good forever. So yeah, it's now specifically the date of this agreement, which is obviously stated right at the start there, which is once again automatically pre-filled. So in this instance, it's come in with the company that I'm employed by, our ACN straight out of business contacts, my physical site location as set up in iGyro, the client's details and their current postal address on file. Now obviously I've adjusted my own postal address to reflect the site address now that I've moved in, but normally that would be their current, I think it's their current current physical address as set up in client contacts on the individual job, and then the site details that would obviously be set up in iGyro for that job. So many of these things now are actually mail merge fields, which means that straight out of the box you guys can generate one of these without having to adjust ACNs, trading names, anything, postal addresses, email addresses. Should be good to go straight away once you pre-fill that information. Oh, we've got a question.
And the parts highlighted in yellow?
Agreement is spelt incorrectly. I sure hope not. Ha, Richard, we got one E there. Good call, Anne.
Parts in yellow on page 2. Do you want to walk your way through them?
Yes, and I'll definitely get that fixed. I accidentally deleted off the P last week, and Tim comes out and goes, "Preliminary." So the sections in yellow are the parts that need to be adjusted on a case-by-case basis to reflect the pricing for your specific market. Now we've kind of put together a table at the bottom based upon what we would charge would we be trading in those markets based upon the price lists for our preferred suppliers. They're effectively built up in a manner so we're not necessarily making money on these services, we're trying to keep them as lean as possible. In other words, some of these might literally have like $30 on what it actually costs, but it's going to mean that we're going to have a lower cost entry into the market to get some cash out of the clients and hopefully kind of lock them into getting services and proceeding beyond that. So at this stage, these are the markets that historically we've traded in, and we're on the previous preliminary services or on the previous HDOF document as having pricing. So that's all that's on at this stage. Should you wish to have yours added, let me know. Obviously I can't add every single area because it's going to blow into a massive document. But if there's a...
Franchisees can have their own mail merge.
They can, but I guess what I'm hoping to achieve in most instances is that they won't need to make their own. That should we then do an update, they won't then have to make another copy and re-edit it. I mean, obviously we don't want this turning into 14 pages of price lists, and we're also going to have potential issues should there be franchisees both operating in the same general markets who want to charge different amounts.
Melbourne, for example, yeah.
Exactly. Otherwise you end up getting into LGA names and prices, and the thing ends up 40 pages long. But if you are in a remote location where there's nobody building anywhere near you, i.e. any other franchisee, then I am more than willing to bundle this out. So maybe it's a total of 2 pages, and we'd have to review in time as to whether or not there's another way of doing it more effectively should the price list become a little bit too overloaded. But essentially that price list there is a reference point for filling out this document. In the long run, what we would like to do is not actually have this as a PDF. I'd like to have it, sorry, not as a Word document. I'd like to have it generate directly to PDF and automatically pull in the pricing. That's the long-term goal. Can't say it'll be this year, but it's definitely the long-term goal. And I'd like to see it as a bit of a checklist. You'd load up the job, you'd fill in the information, you'd hit, you'd go to calculators or something, go generate prelim services, and maybe have a bunch of checkboxes which would specifically relate to these here. So it'd say, do you want a contour, do you want a win rating, do you want this, do you want that? And you could tick the appropriate things and it would bring in the price that you'd set up in your in your actual consent authority business contact. There'd be perhaps a way of housing that pricing in there. And it would refer to that field for that consent authority and put the pricing in automatically, do the total addition of the total amount automatically, and literally you could just press a couple of buttons and have a document that you can print on the spot. That's the long-term goal. At this stage, there's no viable way of doing that through Word. It's just not possible given the number of places that we operate and the fact that we're trying to build this so that it's usable for everyone. So at this stage, the reason these ones here are specifically highlighted is a trigger so that you know that you need to adjust these values for your market. For whatever you want to choose, for whatever you want to charge. I've opted for the most expensive in every single market to have as the default. That way, if a sales consultant's lazy and doesn't adjust it, we're getting $5,700 for something that's probably going to cost us $2,000. So that's why it's set at such a high amount. Obviously, if we come down here, contour and feature surveys in many instances are significantly less than $1,350. We've got some here that are $550, $600. Contours and geotech's downward of $400. But the number that's been placed in there automatically is the highest rate of all markets, just to make sure that we don't get shortchanged on providing a service. So effectively all you do is you refer to the price list or refer to your separate price list for whatever you want to choose for these services. Type in the dollar amounts, adjust the total, unhighlight it. Print, get each page initialed, get it signed, and then upload it. And yes, we need to fix that. Reports. Ooh. I'm just going to fix it right while I'm talking to you guys, otherwise I'm going to forget. So I'll just show you guys those fields that are currently being referred to in the document when it opens up. It's all these ones at the bottom here that relate to correspondence underscore correspondence company. So we've got correspondence company, ACN, the user's physical address, client name, their primary postal address, followed by the site address, franchise account name, franchise BSB, account number, and all these fields down the bottom which are doing much the same. So we're referring to the correspondence company and pulling in that information automatically now. So hopefully in many instances you'll be able to just straight away use this document without any adjustment whatsoever. So I'll get that off to Tim for upload. If we just jump back to the group edit. So that's really all I really wanted to show in here, was these specific fields and now how we have a manner of using those and automating those throughout the reports. Further to that, like I said, we're doing a lot of work at the moment on our end in terms of updating those standard mail mergers, which are all under the new home franchises, to bring them in line with our new letterhead. It's a little more generic and a little more user-friendly. And we're going to try to start using those correspondence company fields in as many of these as humanly possible, so that you will be able to use these documents from the outset. Hopefully, should you be following our specification and the likes, you should be able to generally use from straight away. At least that's the aspiration. One example will be these specifications. I'm actually in the process of incorporating those and going through and specifically putting in the correspondence company mail merge field throughout, so that hopefully, effective immediately, should you guys wish to use the same PC items as us and the same contract terms, and also HIA contracts, which is what our clauses specifically reference, you'll be able to just generate that. It'll come up with your trading name, your postal address automatically here. Obviously, your name will come up, where was it? There and throughout. There was another one here that says from now on we'll refer to as builder. So there, once again, would show it with your trading name. And hopefully you'll be able to use our designer specification straight away from the onset without any adjustment. That's the dream. You guys aren't, you aren't forced to do so, but I guess there's a great number of reasons why it's a good thing. Firstly, Rich can attest to the sheer amount of time that he and I spend in these documents. These specifications are a never-ending developing document. And today we added a few more definitions and clarified a few other things. And as Richard's email that went out, we tidied up the addendum H definition for practical completion to make it a little bit more airtight. Clarified a few of the things. Yep.
Just to remind people, I was checking someone's contract the other day and they'd left all the yellow bits in there, just to hope everyone knows how to remove those highlight elements out of a Word document.
Yep. So you just select those and select there and go no color. Now, so the only reason they're currently shown in yellow is I guess a flag to double check the information's actually coming in. Because if you're not populating the information into iGyro correctly, there's no way that we can report on it and then put it into the document. So So whilst I would like to take those yellow things out and never have them in it, they're more a triple check rather than just trusting the document's working right or trusting that you've put the information in correctly. And I guess it's also useful for those, should they wish to copy our specification and create their own and maintain their own specification, they know exactly the fields that need adjusting on a case-by-case basis.
And it's worth mentioning with the 3 optional progress payment tables that 2 of them have to be deleted on every occasion, so it acts as a reminder that you don't leave all 3 of them in there, just one will ever apply.
Exactly. Which is why they're specifically highlighted. So we now have a New South Wales, a Queensland and a South Australian new home designer specification, and I believe we also have a New South Wales and perhaps even Queensland cost plus renovation specification as well, all as mail mergers. They're all currently undergoing review and consolidation and tidy up to make sure there is no inconsistency in terms of the clauses, that there's they're all referencing any recent changes to the HIA contracts, and there's been that they're all accurate and working and generating correctly. Nothing drives me more insane than when you end up with like a word just at the a heading on a page above.
It's called a widow.
A widow, is it?
Yeah, in editing terms, and magazines call them widows.
Oh, now I feel kind of bad. Hating on widows this whole time. So yes.
Just in regards to the specification for renovation that relates to cost plus,
yep.
We're aware that some of you may be using fixed price renovation contracts, for example, the Queensland Alteration Addition and Renovation Contract.
Yep.
We will actually make a version of that available at some point, just not at the moment. But if you need one, talk to me about it and we can assist you through that process.
Yep. Yep. So I think, from memory, if I just type in spec, yes, so we've got renovation cost plus. We've got an ACT designer as well. I forgot we'd actually done that one. Queensland, New South Wales, SA. So I might actually get that ACT one moved up into the All New Home Franchises group, and also this one here as well, because it appears to be in our group only, so it's actually not available to franchisees. So once I've made those mail merge adjustments and brought in the company name or the business contact name throughout, we'll get them all up into the All New Homes Franchises group, so it's readily available.
That cost plus one too was based on an old HIA one that they don't have anymore, and it now has to be in New South Wales a handwritten MBA one, so there'll be a little bit of work on fixing that up to be useful.
Oh, they actually did away with it, did they?
Yeah, I tried to get one last time and there wasn't one available. So, and they were saying they were going to provide one, but it's not available as an online one, and they didn't have any hard copies in the office in Brisbane here.
Oh, okay, all right, that's interesting.
Yeah, but because there hasn't been a lot of renovation work being done, we haven't put the energy into, or the time rather, into creating them because it just hasn't been the demand.
Yeah, well, I guess every time we get it right, they then change all the clauses and we got to start again.
Yeah, and there's been people using different contracts, and so it's fairly time-consuming to get it all right.
It is indeed.
And because of the nature of renovations, there's also, you're often writing a lot of addendum A things every time as well.
Yes, yep. The other thing worth noting, though, on the Queensland one is, and whilst it isn't a legal requirement in Queensland, there's one that just came to my attention then relating to concreting. When I get to it, this one here, the underslab vapor barrier. So in New South Wales, it is, I believe, a BCA requirement that it be of a high impact resistance. That's not the case in Queensland. but we've opted to continue specifying the high impact across the board, just because from our perspective it was going to be a nightmare should we end up with the wrong one in a New South Wales job. So we took the approach as a business across all our states, we would just specify the same product. So if
is it a goanna in Queensland?
Yeah, they just rock out and they just throw a bit of sand on the ground and do a bit of a blessing, kick some dirt, and build a slab.
But only if Pauline Hanson's the project manager.
Oh, you're not a fan of Pauline's?
Oh, she's wonderful. She's about to be elected to the Senate.
She is. I'm voting One Nation. Ooh, am I? So, yes, that's, I guess, all I really had to show in relation to those was to let you guys know that this document, the preliminary estimate, is now effective. It's now done. This is the document that we showcased at the conference. Got a new cover page for it. We've updated the naming convention, so it's a preliminary estimate, and it falls in line with what we're actually referring to as the preliminary estimate sales estimate sheet, which we do generally when clients pay us specifically for a price on a home. So this one's now ready for mail merging and for presentation of any future tenders you may have.
It's interesting too, we just had someone the other day, the clients come and approach us and had all the documents, soil tests, even the plans are all drawn up, but we've still managed to get $300 out of the client to do the estimate.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. I'm encouraging all sales consultants and everyone to start charging. I mean, for those of you that were at the conference and attended one of those HIA training sessions, the fellow was very, very clear that his aspiration would be that no builder ever provided a free quote, and that is also our aspirations of. Obviously, there's going to be instances where you need to provide a price for each of your homes. I mean, it's a reasonable expectation that if you have a house design that you should be able to provide a price to a client for it. But definitely where there's substantial changes requested or where they're turning up with their own owner-supplied plans, if that's the market that you're in, I don't think it's unreasonable that you should be able to charge for your time. And if $300 to you doesn't sound like enough for the amount of time you need to invest, you as a independent business, you can adjust that preliminary services agreement field to reflect what your time's actually worth. If you think $1,000 is more applicable to the project, especially if it's a big multi, then charge accordingly.
So that's really the reason why that appears as one of the options. That's something we're moving towards. We understand that there will be situations where you will have to, in order to get the business, do it for free, but we're just sort of flagging that that's the direction that we're taking. We're getting some success with that, and we'll continue to try and achieve that along the way.
Oh yeah, I mean there's nothing worse than tendering for 100 houses and getting 5 contracts out of it. When you look at the amount of time you've invested, you're better off investing your time elsewhere and charging and actually evaluating or quantifying the client. Quantifying, I always get them confused.
Qualify.
Thanks, mate. So there's that. There's also, I had a meeting today with Wholesome. Geez, a lot of emails there. Had a bit of a catch up with Wholesome as part of the concreting tender that I spoke about at the conference. They've put forward a proposal that's reasonable at this stage. I'm waiting on a few extra key markets to find their pricing on there, and I'm hopefully going to spend some time on the weekend or Monday next week doing up a detailed comparison. Firstly on obviously display home benefits, markets which can be serviced, those which can't, and the implications of that should they not be able to service the market, and we chose to take that, to take them up on a national deal or an 80-20 split or something of the like. And yeah, I'll hopefully very early next week, either by myself or Rich, you will be able to send out something similar to what I did with the B&D versus steel iron comparison, and it'd be really, really appreciated if we could get some feedback on that as to who you're using currently, who you'd prefer to use in the future, if you've had bad dealings with either Boral or Wholesome in the past. Preferred credit terms, they're definitely things that can be negotiated, and something I'm pushing very, very heavily to be doing on future pricing arrangements is going into bat for the franchisees in terms of trying to push the envelope in terms of credit terms. Obviously, in some instances we've managed to get 30 days end of month for people who are building like 2-3 houses a year, which is just spectacular for cash flow. So yes, hopefully very early next week I'll have some preliminary, or I'll have a detailed comparison on the two. We are once again tendering the reinforcing and the pods and the like nationally. To date, we've used One Steel. They have quite a sizable price increase effective as of tomorrow. I think in some instances in the vicinity of 11 or 12%. Obviously, the Australian dollar taking a dive, and then Arium, the owner of their company, being in financial hardship. They're looking to increase prices across the board. So we've tendered that to Arc Reinforcing also. FYI, they're also owned by Arium Steel. Apparently, the two largest steel manufacturers in Australia are both in both competition with each other, but are actually owned by Arium together. So yes, that's a tender that's out there that I'm waiting to get tentative pricing on for a comparison. Still working on a preferred supply only of metal roofing as an option for those of you that wish to go down the route of supplying your own product and engaging a roofing plumber to do the labour works. We've trialled Stramit, we've trialled Stratco. Neither were necessarily a fit. They were great in metropolitan areas, but beyond that their reach was quite lacking. We've now moved on to Steelline as a recommendation from BlueScope directly. So talking with them, getting some pricing back, doing some comparisons. They're estimating, or their estimates for the product supply seems to be a lot closer to what we're seeing with our drafting software than what Stratco ever provided. And their price...
Shane, do you have Stoddards down there?
We do, yes.
Metal roofing?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, I'm just using them up here. They seem to be really good.
Yes, no, we've used Stoddards probably from day one. We've had a couple of others here in Coffs as well. We're tending to try and move away from the supply and install model, and move to a model not dissimilar from pretty much every other product in the house, where we actually source the product ourselves, buy the product ourselves, and engage a contractor to do the works only. I mean, the current model that we're seeing with Stoddards and the Melrose and the Kiteleys and the like doing supply and install it's an interesting market, or a niche that they've managed to create for themselves. I mean, our bricklayers don't supply our bricks, our plasterers don't supply our plaster. Why should our roofers supply our roofing? So yes, there's a bit of work going into that. Pricing's starting to come down, and hopefully with volume and with a bit of penetration in the market, we should be able to start getting contractors to work for our rates and start getting our supply rates down. So that's on the cards. Just trying to think what other supply agreements I've got on the go. Beacon's sorted, Clipsal's sorted, B&D's sorted. Just trying to think. We're doing another update to that designer inclusions document that we had bound and showcased at the conference. That was version, I'm going to say, probably 6 before we actually got it printed. We're working on the next evolution of that as of yesterday. We're hoping to incorporate door furniture, entry doors, a couple of different options with that, different Clipsal options, maybe push-touch controllers, slimlines, things like that. And we're hoping to really just expand on that document in terms of fixed price, nominal upgrades that clients can do up front. They can very easily quantify it, they can see the pretty pictures, and we can kind of keep that maintained. So that's underway. There is also this document here, which is the inclusion selection document that I spoke about at the conference, or I think Glenn spoke about, and then I also had a bit of input on, which is a more visual way of us expressing our standard inclusions. So historically we've had the designer specification, which is a very litigious, thanks Richard, yes, document. You wouldn't ever want to give that to a client pre-sale because they're going to take it to a solicitor and then they're never going to come and see you again. It's obviously written to protect ourselves and has a lot of clauses in there that you don't necessarily need the client seeing until contract signing. We're hoping to give some wind to this document once more. It was around many years ago when we used to have the 3 different ranges: urban, designer, executive. We're hoping to reinvigorate it and really expand on the information in it and make it more of a sales tool that you can get printed and bound or commercially printed and keep in your sales offices, and you can actually hand to the clients. It's a summarized, clear version of a specification. So when a client walks into Perry or Coral or whoever the other builder is and walks out and knows exactly what product they're getting in their home, they're getting this insulation, they're getting that pantry shelving, they're getting, they know exactly what inclusions they're getting. They'll be able to take our document and compare it side by side and hopefully see how much better we actually are than them. I've seen quite a few of these lately come across my desk. It's amazing some of the things that people put in this, like just things that you don't think actually need to be stated. It's like roof, yes, thank God. I was afraid I wasn't going to get a roof. So it's amazing the length that some of these other builders have gone to fluff out their documents and maybe discredit or make clients question what the other builders are giving them. Or they consistently use the clause, we include things that other builders class as upgrades or things like that. This document will be able to prove that. That we're giving them exactly what any other builder is giving, and in some instances more. So yes, like I said, it's in a PowerPoint format. It's not in Word, so it's a little bit easier to work with in terms of.
Is this a draft at the moment?
It is, yes. So I've gotten a hold of the old 2013 document, and I tasked Cameron with reviewing the specification and pre-populating the information for me. And he literally sent this to me like an hour ago. Does
that include the stuff that I put together with all those extra?
I believe so. Yes. I believe so.
Okay, it looks like it. Yeah, I can see the question marks are still in there about things I wasn't sure about. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that over the next week or so I'll be able to spend a bit of time on really looking this over and seeing how we can bring some life back into this document. And then once again, just like the fast track boards, we can get them uploaded in this editable format to iGyro so that everyone can adjust should they choose to vary and use other standard specification items. So that one's on the horizon.
That's great, thank you.
Love this document. Just trying to think what else I've been working on. So much going on. I think that's probably all I've got to show. Did I mention anything else to you earlier, Richard, that I've overlooked?
No, they were the things that we talked about, thanks. And plus, time's nearly up anyway, so they've done a really good job there, thank you.
Sweet. So I guess we're looking for a bit of feedback and a bit of direction moving forward. Obviously, we missed the email out today, I think, but normally we do email the day of or the day earlier and do specifically request some kind of direction or advice or questions. And I'm always asking for feedback. I guess from our perspective, we're kind of coming to a point where we're not necessarily sure what you want to learn or what we can show you guys. It's no point us just starting again from the start and babbling on because you'll probably tune out and stop coming. So if we could, honestly, if we could get some feedback or some advice on things that you would like to be trained in moving forward, it'd be really appreciated. That way I've got a bit of direction and I can tailor these, and actually prepare for them.
I'll do an email probably tomorrow or Monday just reminding everyone. We used to run these meetings every 2 months, and then we increased the frequency due to the demand. So
Yep.
we're sort of conscious of making them relevant, but not just having a meeting for the sake of it. So if we find that there's no great appetite to continue with the weekly arrangement, that we might push it out back to say a month or bi-monthly, so that we're making the best use of everyone's time.
Well said. I should have just let you say it. So thank you all very much for coming. Like I said, if you can email me or Richard or Tim and give any instructions or advice or things that I've shown in the past you'd like to go back and have a look at again, perhaps in greater detail, or now that you're starting to get your heads around iGyro, things that are making a little more sense that we could probably go a little bit further into, definitely let us know so that we can tailor this to your expectations, and as Richard said, make the best use of your time.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks everyone. See yous.
Thank you all. Bye.